My husband took me to the hospital on our wedding night, and his words left me stunned. He said, "Before anything else, I need to confirm whether you're a virgin or not." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was this really the man I had married? The man who was supposed to love and protect me? But there was no hesitation on his part. He immediately had me lie down on a hospital stretcher, as though he had been planning this all along. I was overwhelmed with a mixture of disbelief and panic. Lying there on that stretcher, I felt an unbearable weight pressing down on me. My heart pounded erratically, and my breathing grew shallow. I had never been in a hospital before, not even for something minor. The thought that this was happening to me, on the first night of my marriage no less, was crushing. Growing up, my mother had always taken care of me. For a fever or any small ailment, she would simply call the doctor to our home. Never in my life had I imagined that I would find myself here, in this stark hospital room, completely alone and at the mercy of people I didn't know. The fluorescent light above me felt cold and harsh, and the air in the room was sterile and unwelcoming. I shivered slightly, not from the temperature, but from the fear and humiliation coursing through me. I could feel sweat trickling down the sides of my face and pooling at the back of my neck. My hands felt clammy, and my legs felt like lead. The thought of what was about to happen was enough to make my whole body tremble. I was entering a state of semi-consciousness, not because I was drifting to sleep, but because my mind was struggling to process the reality of the situation. As the moments dragged on, I started to feel faint. The combination of stress, fear, and an empty stomach was taking its toll. I had barely eaten since the previous day, my nerves refusing to settle enough for me to even think about food. I had been too preoccupied with the anticipation and anxiety surrounding my wedding night, an anticipation that had turned into a nightmare. Then, through my half-closed eyes, I noticed a figure approaching. My thoughts raced. Was it the doctor? Was it my husband? My heart fluttered with a sliver of hope, but that hope quickly turned into dread. I felt fingers brushing against my skin. The touch was light, tentative at first, but soon it grew more deliberate. I wanted to scream, to push the hands away, but my body refused to respond. I was completely immobilized, trapped in a waking nightmare. The cold air from the room's air conditioning sent a chill down my spine as I felt my clothes being pulled away. I tried desperately to move, to open my eyes fully, to shout for help, but it was no use. I was fully conscious of what was happening, yet utterly powerless to stop it. My mind screamed out, but my voice wouldn't come. My hands were soon restrained, and something was placed over my mouth, silencing any sound I might have managed to make. What happened next was unthinkable. In that dark, cold hospital room, someone exploited my helplessness. The very idea of it made my stomach churn. How could this be happening? How could someone take advantage of me in such a vile, degrading way? It felt like every ounce of dignity, every shred of humanity was being stripped from me. It was this horrifying experience that haunted me when I returned home. I couldn't get the images out of my head. I felt dirty, broken, and humiliated beyond words. And yet, when I mustered the courage to tell my mother what had happened, her response left me even more devastated. As I fell to my knees before her, begging her not to go through with my arranged marriage, she simply dismissed me. "You're getting married in 5 days," she said firmly. "That's final. Stop dreaming. You have no idea what real cruelty is." Her sharp, cold words pierced through me, making my already fragile state even worse. I tried reasoning with her, saying, "But I'm only 14. I want to study. I want to build a life for myself." Her response was as harsh as her expression. "You don't understand how much I've protected you all these years. I've kept you hidden from the eyes of the men who come to this area. I've shielded you from the wolves, from the filth around us. And now, finally, someone has brought a decent proposal. A good match that can save you from the fate that so many girls here suffer. You have no idea how hard it was to convince Khwaja Sahab to vouch for you. They don't know you're the daughter of a courtesan. They believe you're just the child of a worker here. And that's why they agreed to this marriage." I was stunned into silence. Her words echoed in my head. Otherwise, girls from this Kotha don't get married. They're sold. Night after night, a price is set. But I don't want that life for you. I want to send you off with respect." Her words were meant to justify her decision, but to me, they were a brutal reminder of the reality I lived in. I felt like a pawn in a cruel game, forced into a future I never chose. As I sat there, tears streaming down my face, I realized how little control I had over my own life. This was a world where even the smallest hope for a better future was extinguished before it could take root. I wanted to escape, to run away from it all, but I was trapped by the expectations of society, by the weight of my family's decisions, and by the painful truth of my own circumstances. I could have done to you what the other women here did with their daughters, sent you out to earn a living with your beauty and youth, profiting from it for as long as it lasted. But I never wanted that for you. I want you to have a home, a respectable life. I want you to be free from this infamous place, from all the stains and shadows it casts on everyone who lives here. The dreams I had for myself, the ones I couldn't fulfill, I want to see them come true through you. A small house, a decent husband, and a simple life filled with happiness. That's all I ever wanted. But somehow someone planted the idea of studying in your head, as if education is the key to everything. Let me tell you something. A woman's true education is in learning to manage a home, to build a life inside the four walls of her household. That's what I taught you. I taught you how to run a house, how to be a good wife and mother. That's the real education you need. She called over a servant and signaled for a bowl of henna. "You're lucky," she said, "that this henna will be for your wedding. Otherwise, in this place, henna is put on every night, only to entertain the customers. You should be grateful." The servant began preparing the henna at her feet. I cried out in protest. "Amma, I don't want this henna yet. I want to study. I want to become a teacher." She shook her head at me and snapped, "When will you understand? I'm doing this for you. If the other girls here find out I arranged your marriage, they'll all start dreaming of getting married too. I need to keep this a secret so you can leave here with dignity. If you had been born a boy, I could have sent you away to a hostel in another city. But you're a girl, and I know exactly how society treats women like us. Now go, start preparing for the wedding. These are your last few days in this house." She gave the servant another signal and instructed her, "Tell her how peaceful married life can be." The servant, a married woman herself, took my hand and led me to another room. She said, "Miss, you're very fortunate. Despite being born in this place, you're getting married respectably. Many girls dream of a life like this, but their dreams die long before they can even leave these walls." I pulled my hand away from her and retorted, "That's wishful thinking. The truth never stays hidden. My teacher always says that one day, the truth reveals itself. If my husband or his family ever find out that I'm the daughter of a courtesan, I'll end up right back here." I had finally voiced the thought that had been tormenting me. The servant clutched her chest in alarm and exclaimed, "Don't say such things, miss. Why would they ever find out? They've been told you're my daughter. They're good people. Once you're married and settled, they'll never look back. This truth will never come out." I laughed bitterly and replied, "Oh, so they're such noble people that they couldn't find a single girl in the whole city and had to come to a courtesan's daughter to arrange a wedding? There's something off about their so-called nobility." Mark my words, I had laid bare all my fears before her, and she was left speechless. But what could she do? Amma's will was unshakable. 5 days later, I was to be married. Amma had done everything in her power to keep the truth buried, to ensure that I left this place with my dignity intact. But one way or another, Shamsa found out. Shamsa was one of the girls who lived and worked here. She discovered Amma's plans and wasted no time spreading the word. Soon all the other girls knew. They were furious and resentful. "So, Sitara Bai is marrying off her daughter, but she makes us sell ourselves every night," they whispered, their envy and anger growing with each passing day. Amma ordered me to stay in my room to avoid stepping out where the others might confront me. But on the third night, Shamsa suddenly appeared at my door. She grabbed my hand and dragged me out. "Come and see the real world," she sneered as she pulled me into the main hall. There, in the midst of the dimly lit gathering, a group of men sat on cushions, while a few of the girls danced before them. Shamsa pointed toward them and said, "Look at this carefully. This is the life you come from. Don't think that just because your mother's marrying you off, the truth won't come out. A courtesan's daughter is destined to be a courtesan. That's how the world works." Her words burned, and then she laughed, a bitter, mocking laugh. I could see the hatred in her eyes, a hatred I understood all too well. She wanted the same things I did, a chance at a normal, respectable life. But that chance had been stolen from her long ago. Someone had sold her to this place, and she had been trapped here ever since. Amma had forced her to dance in the gatherings when she was young, and as she grew older, Amma began offering her to customers. Her life had been shaped entirely by the commands of others. Her bitterness wasn't just directed at me. It was directed at a world that allowed these injustices to happen. She wasn't wrong to be angry, but her anger had turned her cruel. She had no hope of escape, and seeing me about to leave only intensified her resentment. As she turned and walked away, her laughter still echoing, I stood there frozen, her words ringing in my ears. Even now, I still remember how she was when she first arrived. So loud, so defiant. She screamed and yelled, tried multiple times to escape, but Amma thwarted every attempt. That was why, when she learned about my impending marriage, it was too much for her to handle. However, I understood her emotions and didn't say anything harsh to her. 5 days later, under the quiet daylight, my wedding procession arrived. The place was eerily silent, as this was a house where the night spoke and the days lay empty. Amma had carefully chosen to summon the groom's side at noon, knowing that everyone would be asleep in their rooms, unaware of what was happening. But despite all this secrecy, I couldn't shake the fear that my truth might come out. The nikah ceremony began. I sat there nervous and on edge. The knot was tied, but just before the final send-off, my husband's health suddenly deteriorated. Amma, eager to see me leave with him, was forced to send him to the washroom as he began throwing up. His mother was furious, accusing Amma of serving spoiled food. "You've made my son sick," she scolded, leaving Amma deeply embarrassed. It took a while for Hamdan to recover. Finally, he returned, and my departure from the house proceeded. I thought that was the end of the drama, but Hamdan didn't take me to his family's home. Instead, he brought me straight to a nearby hospital. Seeing the hospital sign, I was puzzled. Maybe he was still feeling unwell and wanted to get checked out, but the way he looked at me, those piercing, angry eyes, sent a chill down my spine. "Why are we at the hospital?" I asked hesitantly. He stared at me with disgust and replied, "So I can find out if you've ever been tainted by the filth of the place you came from." His words left me speechless. I burst into tears. "What are you saying?" I asked, my voice trembling. He grabbed me roughly by the hair. "Your mother is a cunning woman," he hissed. "She may be a seasoned courtesan, but she's a master of deceit. She tricked us into taking you. If I had known the truth before the wedding, I wouldn't have married you. I would have simply bought you for a night. But now that I know, I need to find out whether you're pure or not. And if I discover that you aren't, I'll divorce you right here and send you back to that brothel where you belong." His words were like a knife to my heart. My entire body trembled with fear. I couldn't understand how he had learned the truth or why he was so convinced of my guilt. He dragged me inside the hospital. I don't know what he said at the reception, but soon we were led into a doctor's office. It was a large private hospital, and a short time later, a lady doctor entered the room. Hamdan wasted no time. "I need my wife examined," he demanded. "I want to know if she's a virgin." The doctor was visibly taken aback. She glanced at me and said, "This girl is so young. What's the need for such an exam?" Hamdan, without a care for my dignity, snapped back. "She was born and raised in a brothel. Her mother lied to us, so I need to know if she's pure." The doctor fell silent for a moment, then reluctantly agreed. "Fine, wait here. We'll conduct the examination." She motioned for me to go into a separate room, where a nurse had me lie on a stretcher before leaving the room. Alone, I lay there with tears streaming down my face. The very thing I had feared most was now happening. Somehow, Hamdan had discovered the truth. He believed I was tainted. In his eyes, I was no longer a bride, but a liar, a fraud. I cried uncontrollably. the sound of my sobs echoing faintly in the quiet room. It wasn't long before the doctor returned. She approached me gently, noticing my tears. "Relax, my dear," she said softly. "Lie back. I'll conduct the exam carefully, and you won't feel any discomfort. Whatever misunderstandings your husband has will be cleared up, and everything will be fine." Her reassuring words and her gentle touch on my head offered a moment of comfort. But as she spoke, I felt another wave of despair wash over me. The room's dim lighting seemed to close in around me, amplifying my anxiety. I couldn't shake the fear that, no matter what the outcome of this exam, my life had already been shattered. For 2 days, I hadn't eaten properly because of the stress of the wedding. Now, as I lay there, a wave of semi-consciousness washed over me. It felt as if I was losing control of my senses. In that state, I began to feel something strange. It was as though someone was lightly brushing their fingers over my body. I distinctly felt the touch on my neck, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't open my eyes. My body was unresponsive, caught in a haze of half-awareness. Suddenly, I felt someone tampering with the zipper of my shirt. A hand gripped my wrist tightly. The sensation was vivid and undeniable. My mind struggled to process what was happening. Then, before I could fully come to my senses, I felt tape being pressed over my mouth, muffling any sound I might have made. My hands were bound, making it impossible to move or fight back. Even though my eyes finally fluttered open, the darkness in the room kept me from seeing clearly. Everything was shrouded in shadows. And then, in that cramped and dimly lit space, something happened that I can't put into words. My virginity, something I'd never thought about losing in such a horrific way, was forcibly taken from me before the examination could even begin. I couldn't scream. I couldn't protest. All I could do was silently endure what was happening. Tears streamed down my face as I lay there, helpless and violated. I don't know how long it lasted, but eventually I caught sight of a shadowy figure leaving the room. That was all I saw, a shadow disappearing through the door. I didn't know who it was or why they had done this. I had no clue what they looked like. The only thing I knew was that the worst had happened. My worst nightmare had come true. The person left without a word. Before leaving, they untied my hands, but it made no difference. My cries for help, even if they came now, would be useless. I knew that my husband, Hamdan, would never believe me. No matter what I said, he would assume that I had done something wrong. Because I'd grown up in that notorious place, it was inevitable that he would think I'd been involved in something disgraceful before this incident. There was no way he'd believe that this horrible thing had happened to me here, in the hospital, and not back at the brothel. My mind spiraled into chaos. My body bore no visible wounds, but the scars left on my soul were deep and raw. I couldn't think straight. I could barely move. All I could do was look at my hands and feet and cry. Hours seemed to pass before the lady doctor returned. She found me in tears and tried to reassure me. "Why are you worrying so much?" she said. "Everything will be fine." I couldn't contain it anymore. Through my sobs, I told her everything, every detail of what had happened. But instead of helping me, she turned cold. Anger flashed across her face as she said, "You must be a dishonest girl trying to tarnish our hospital's reputation. This is a reputable, expensive hospital. Our staff is highly professional. Do you think someone can just walk in here and do something like that to a patient? You're lying to cover up your own sins." She dismissed my cries without even examining me further. Without another word, she called Hamdan into the room and announced, "Your wife is not a virgin. She admits as much." Her words hit me like a slap. Hamdan's furious eyes bore into me, and I broke down again, trying to explain myself. "It's not what you think," I begged, but he wouldn't listen. He refused to hear my side of the story. In his mind, the truth had already been decided. Grabbing my hand, he dragged me out of the hospital. I couldn't stop crying. I tried to plead with him, but it was no use. He pulled me into the car and drove back to the very place I had left as a bride. As soon as we arrived, he shoved me toward my mother. My mother stood in shock as she saw us return. Hamdan didn't waste any time. With a voice full of anger and disdain, he declared, "I, Hamdan Shah, hereby divorce Manahil. I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you." Those 3 words severed every connection between us. In an instant, my husband had cast me aside. He turned and left without another word, leaving me on my knees at my mother's feet. Amma was beside herself. "What happened?" she demanded, grabbing my arms. "You had just left. Why is he divorcing you now?" Her disbelief turned to anger. "What did you do?" I couldn't stop crying long enough to answer. My words were broken and halting as I tried to tell her what had happened. When I finally managed to explain, she put her head in her hands and began to weep. "I prayed for your future every single day," she said through her tears. "I protected your honor all these years on this kotha, but it seems your fate was written in darkness. I tried to pull you out of this place, but the same thing happened to you out there. Maybe I should never have arranged your marriage. Perhaps we women of the brothel are only destined to serve clients for the rest of our lives." Her words pierced my heart. The despair in her voice mirrored the hopelessness I felt inside. We sat there together, 2 women crying over a broken dream. My mother's hopes of a better life for me had been crushed. My own dreams of starting a new chapter had turned into ashes. All I could do was hold on to her and cry. The daughter of a courtesan remains a courtesan. That's what society believed. My mother wept inconsolably, overcome with despair. Rashida took me to my room and kept asking if I had seen anyone's face, if I remembered anything. I shook my head and told her that Hamdan took me there because he had discovered the truth, that I wasn't her daughter, but the daughter of Tarabai. If Hamdan hadn't found out this truth, perhaps he never would have taken me to that hospital. Rashida was shocked and asked how Hamdan had found out. Through my tears, I explained that he had learned of it after our wedding. If he had known before the wedding, he would never have married me. Rashida's expression shifted, and without saying much, she left the room. Shortly afterward, I heard Shamshah's screams. Startled, I ran out to see what was happening. I saw Shamshah writhing on the ground as my mother beat her mercilessly. I rushed to stop my mother, but she pushed me away and shouted, "Get back! She's the reason for your ruin. She spiked Hamdan's food with something that made him sick. When he went to the bathroom, she told him the truth about you. If she hadn't revealed that you're my daughter, he wouldn't have taken you to that hospital. This entire disaster is because of her." I watched as my mother's rage boiled over. She continued, "Shamshah's own father sold her to this brothel. If I hadn't taken her in, he might have killed her. He was a gambling, drunken wreck of a man capable of anything. I gave him a lot of money to bring her here, and yet, despite everything, she stabbed me in the back." My mother then ordered Rashida to lock Shamshah in a room permanently. "I never want to see her face here again." Shamshah's cries and pleas fell on deaf ears. My mother showed no mercy. Watching her condition, I felt pity for her. Later, I sat beside my mother and tried to reason with her. What's Shamshah's fault in all of this? My fate was sealed long before, and if her father sold her to this place, how is it her fault? She spent her entire life here suffering. Please, don't be angry with her. My words seemed to temper my mother's fury. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into years. 2 years later, one day I mustered the courage to say, "Mother, how long will I be a burden on you? I understand now that I can't live a life of dignity, so I might as well adorn this brothel myself." Hearing this, my mother began to cry. I told her I wanted to be part of the night's gathering. By evening, I dressed myself up and joined the gathering. After all, courtesans survive by selling their existence. I had decided to no longer be a burden on others and to fend for myself. Over time, I became part of every gathering. I was young and beautiful, and my dances were well received. However, I never agreed to spend the night with anyone. Then one night, my mother told me, "A customer has come, and he's willing to pay a large sum for you. It's just for one night, if you agree." My mother, avoiding my gaze, asked hesitantly. I replied, "I'm willing." I had already decided to sell myself, so whether it was dancing or spending a night, it no longer mattered. I waited in my room for the customer to arrive. When he finally entered, his face was covered. He sat silently before me. I wasn't sure how to please a customer, so I simply waited for his move. Slowly, he removed his mask, and I jumped in shock. The man sitting before me was none other than my ex-husband, Hamdan. Hamdan fell to his knees and began crying, pleading for forgiveness. I was stunned, speechless. Then, through his tears, he revealed something that shook me to my core. The night at the hospital, what happened to me, he had done it. In the doctor's absence, he had entered the room and violated me. Then he quietly left. He admitted that he had done it deliberately because he had learned I was the daughter of a courtesan. He didn't want to continue his life with me, but before divorcing me, he wanted to ruin me. He sought revenge for the lie my mother had told to arrange our marriage, and he exacted his revenge by taking away my dignity. I did it because I wanted revenge, he said. Your mother lied to me, but you were my wife. I had that right. I made you mine and then branded you as impure to justify the divorce. Hearing this, I was paralyzed with disbelief. All this time I had mourned my fate, believing some stranger had wronged me. Now the man I had trusted, the man who had taken me as his bride, sat at my feet, confessing his sins, begging for forgiveness. I stared at him, unable to process the weight of his words. He sobbed as he said, "After I divorced you, I never found peace again. When I returned home, I discovered that my parents' car had met with an accident. While I had taken you to the hospital, they were heading back home. They both lost their lives in that accident. It took me a long time to recover from that grief. After that, nothing went right for me. I lost my stable job. My home went into foreclosure. Everything fell apart because I had hurt an innocent girl. I had wronged you. I knew in my heart that you were virtuous, but I couldn't bear the fact that you were born to a courtesan. I took out my anger at your mother on you. My family had agreed to this match, thinking you were a respectable girl, but I proved to be the one without honor. When the time came, I abandoned you. Please forgive me so I can find some peace." I glanced at Hamdan and forgave him. He had already paid the price for what he did to me. Having asked for my forgiveness, he turned to leave. He didn't even touch me. Left alone with my thoughts, I wondered why people become so cruel. Why do they think they have the right to dictate someone else's fate? People call me a courtesan, claiming I sell my body to make money. But whose hand was behind making me one? If a decent, honorable man had given me a place in his home, married me, and provided a life of respect, would I still be a courtesan today? Does any respectable man have the courage to marry the daughter of a courtesan and give her a dignified life? Can girls born on brothels ever become the daughters-in-law of honorable families? Can this society ever truly accept us? I need that answer from you.